Hello and welcome to World Talks on TVP World with me, Ashim Kumar. Tens of thousands of protesters gathered in central Belgrade on Sunday to rally against Serbian President Aleksandar Vučić and his ruling party, whom they blame for a roof collapse that killed 15 people on November the 1st. Opposition leaders, students and others have taken to the streets repeatedly over the last 2 months, blaming the accident on shoddy construction resulting from government corruption and nepotism. The protesters are demanding the release of all documents related to the renovation of the station, as well as the criminal prosecution of officials. Where does the government of Aleksandar Vučić go now? How do we expect this situation to be resolved? Well, to explore these and other questions, we are joined by Ivan Vejvoda, Permanent Fellow, the Institute of Human Sciences in Vienna. Hello, Mr. Vejvoda, and welcome to TVP World.
Hello, and thank you for having me.
Pleasure, sir, pleasure. Now, tell me, it doesn't sound as though the collapse of the roof is the only issue for the protesters. It sounds as though this is the last in a series of dissatisfactions with the government. Is that so?
Indeed, the collapse of this roof and the killing, thus the death of 15 people has been a trigger, the proverbial straw that broke the camel's back. The government coalition of President Vučić has been in power since 2012, 12 years, and there's been an accumulation of less tragic incidents, the repairing of many places in cities that had to be redone because of shoddy work, a number of other issues in which, in fact, this incident is kind of the tip of the iceberg, and that, as you mentioned, has provoked the occupation and blockade of universities. And may I mention, this is not only of Belgrade University, but in major Serbian cities such as Novi Sad, Niš, Kragujevac, and high school students have also joined in this protest. What the students and protesters are asking for is a return to the rule of law, to the empowerment of institutions, to checks and balances, and the separation of powers, because there are many elements of captured state, of the lack of the actions of the judiciary and prosecution in particular. And the main demand of the students is that all documents related to the reconstruction of the railway station of Novi Sad, where this roof collapsed, all be made public, so that it becomes clearly visible the chain of corruption and the chain, of course, of the money that went into this shoddy work.
Right. OK, well, this raises a number of issues, doesn't it? I mean, first of all, clearly the government has had the opportunity, if the protesters are right, to develop the structures, the judiciary and so on, over 12 years. So they're fairly well solidified. Do you think these protesters are going to make a difference?
They certainly are. This is, I would say, a sea change. Proverbially in many countries, and thus in ours in Serbia, people were saying the youth is apathetic, not interested in politics, on TikTok all the time, and really careless about the fate of the country. What we have seen here is the eruption of an extremely enlightened youth of this country. They are extremely well organized in town hall meetings in their faculties and universities. They call them plenums, where they decide democratically. There are no leaders that are sticking out. This is, if I can put it that way, a communal action. And what society has sensed through this is really a healthy democratic future of this country. And the government is having a hard time responding to this. The prosecution, it should be added, has been publishing systematically the documents related to this tragedy, but not all documents have yet been published. And so the protests really are about, we want to see the end of this in the sense of we want complete transparency on what went on here.
Right, okay, so we'll be watching that closely, as I'm sure you will. Now, the companies that built this roof, two Chinese companies, I believe. What can you tell us about them? Are they long-standing suppliers to the Serbian government?
Well, the reconstruction of this station of the second biggest city in Serbia, Novi Sad, is part of the big reconstruction of the railway from Belgrade to Budapest, the capital of Hungary, building a high-speed rail. The Chinese companies are the main contractors, but there are a number of subcontractors, some of them Hungarian, quite a few of them local Serbian companies who are involved both in construction and in the control mechanisms of whether the construction is being conducted correctly. And that's what's coming to light now, all these different levels of engagement of the various economic actors.
Understood. Now, a part of a group of the protesters are the trade unions and their representatives. Now, clearly, this raises the spectre of some kind of economic disruption if, for example, all trade union members were to go on strike in protest. What are your thoughts on that happening?
Well, indeed, there's been a mobilization as I said, triggered by the students who were the first to come out so forcefully, demanding a complete transparency on the wrongdoings related to the deaths of 15 civilians and two others who are recovering in hospital in difficult conditions. So civil society has joined in. You mentioned opposition parties as well, and trade unions also. There has been talk possibly of a general strike. May I add that, of course, professors and high school professors have joined in as well. So the students are the mover of this, but a very broad swathe of society has joined in. And of course, independent news outlets are relating all of this to the public. It should be mentioned, of course, that we do have independent public media, but they are not, the televisions are on cable, the independent televisions are on cable, and they do not have national frequencies. So these independent channels reach about 35% of the audience. Clearly, in today's day and age, people inform themselves through the internet and internet portals as well. But yes, the trade union joining is a significant new step.
Understood. Now, is there, I'm going to present a hypothetical. Let's suppose these protesters are effective, Vučić's government comes down. Is there a credible opposition to step in?
Indeed, this has put a challenge to the opposition, and you are right to pose the question. They have been disunited over the past several years. There were fraudulent elections in our country back in a year ago in December 23, in particular for the capital city of Belgrade. International observers have said as much. And the opposition has not been able to come together. They are now under the pressure of the public and of the students making moves in that direction. And to go back to your hypothetical, I don't think that at this moment we're going to see a change of government, because President Vučić is legitimately president until the next presidential elections in 2027, when he is not allowed to represent himself for a third term. He has hinted at a possibility of early elections, early parliamentary elections. And as I said earlier, the government coalition is grappling with how to actually address this issue, because they haven't been confronted with such a massive opposition and demand, clear demand of students that are spearheading this movement.
Understood. Although, as yet, as you say, there is no cohesive movement that would challenge the president and his government at the moment. Mr. Vejvoda, thank you very, very much for coming along and sharing your expertise and analysis with our audience. Do come and see us again soon. Have a good day.
Thank you again for the invitation.
Thank you. Goodbye now. And that's all from us on this episode of World Talks. Don't go away. Lots more coming up. Goodbye.